stage Chris Brown.
Thanks for making judgments about my size. So, hi everyone. Firstly, I think I just introduced myself as a centrist dad now, to be honest. Listen, I'm not an academic, I'm not an intellectual, so this is going to be a lot closer to bullshit than Patrick's academic kind of dissertation there. I started these thoughts several years ago when my mother had passed away and I had several weeks kind of knocking around the house and started thinking about them, because I was intrigued by this notion of what do people think is normal, and very specifically to talk about the definitions of normal, it's this notion of what is an aberration, what are things that we think are unusual or one-off but actually are permanent. This is where I think this notion of normal really comes from. But also I really want to put this in a context that the human race never ends, right? We are literally the pinnacle of humankind at this point. The beer you are drinking is the best beer that has ever existed in the history of the human race. And we have this timeline that we're on. But meanwhile, while I was in my job, I was feeling that some things had changed. People were making assumptions that were wrong or disconnected to reality. So this led me to this question of the new normal. And I want to say it was several years before COVID that I did this, and I wish I'd got off my arse and done it then, because then I'd be famous during COVID while everyone was talking about it. But a really good example of the kind of thing I'm talking about is car ownership, right? Car ownership has only ever gone up. There are more cars on the road than at any other point in human history. But cars are really important to many different policy areas. Our housing, roads, they was all based around cars. But we all make decisions and assumptions that are loosely related to reality. I don't think they're connected. For example, we complain about the traffic congestion, how long it takes, without realising that we are a direct contributor to that, right? Our sense of reality is warped, and my theory is that it's connected to when you learnt to pass your driving test. That's when you fixed in your head what the roads should be like, even though reality moves on. And EV cars are just going to make this worse, by the way, because once it's not about the climate, we're all just going to get cars, it's going to get worse. But crucially, I think something like the economy has changed. We all think the economy is simple, but it just isn't. Every time you get offered a £300 voucher or a free Shark, handheld vacuum to go with your expensive vacuum, none of these things are free, but we think they're free. We're fooled by them. Facebook is free, but it really isn't. We're being sold stuff. And in other words, I've got a weird analogy, which is that once upon a time we'd go to the smithy and we'd order horseshoes because our horse needed shoes. What we did not expect in the modern day, the equivalent is you'd then go off and sell our data to someone who'd then try and sell us, I don't know, saddles or something. We don't expect these secondary things that happen in the economy now. But fundamentally, we are wealthier. We are, and it doesn't feel like it, right? We don't tell ourselves that we're wealthier in society. But think about travel and the iPhone in your hand and the coffee and the avocado toast. These things did not exist 40 years ago because we couldn't afford, even though this prick is going on about housing. I put in an intermission so that I could make up some time, but please follow 100 Ideas North, which is another project we've got going on. But to go back to COVID really, really briefly, COVID is here to stay. And if you think about every December, the news is always full about flu shots, right? From now on, it will always be about vaccines. And it is permanent, it's a permanent change, it is the new normal. But there's a growing sense it's an aberration, which is why people wanted to oppose COVID. But it's also changing our expectations of how we use the health service. And every time you order from Prime, you change, literally prime your own expectations. But the result is that everything is now opposed. Social media, it has fundamentally changed our expectations. That example there is, there are literally people in Oxford who think that they are putting fences around their communities and locking people in because our sense and our perspectives have completely changed. Individual echo chambers and the bullshit on social media is making a permanent change. Even though we all think it's just an aberration, it's a one-off. But you know what? We can change things. We can be the masters of our own fate. The online safety bill, for example, we think about how long Facebook and Twitter have been here, but finally we're beginning to take control of some of these things that are in our society. And we can use these for positives, which is why I want to remember that really more people can be who they are than at any other point in the whole of human history. People can be gay, or they can be trans, or they can be whatever. That's an ultimate positive. But the story I also want to finish on is that marriage has also changed. Because for the whole of human history, the social and economic dynamics of marriage meant that women were oppressed. And now they can be equals in marriage. And that's something to celebrate in the new norm. Thank you.